Welcome to this week's episode of Timeout. I'm Sean.
And I'm Alexis, and on this episode, we debate whether the Knicks are contenders or pretenders, Milos Raonic wins and loses, and with the NBA All-Star Game upon us, we look back at our favorite moments from All-Star Weekend.
February is drawing to a close, and that means that Major League Baseball is just around the corner. The Blue Jays have begun spring training, and their first full team workout will be this Saturday. We take a look at the Jays' upcoming season in the new segment we call Crossfire with Curtis.
Holster.
All right, Curtis, what do you got for us?
So what spring training story from the Blue Jays are you guys looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to seeing how Drabek comes back after last year. They brought him up a little too early. He wasn't mentally prepared. He had some serious flameouts on the mound, and it looked like he was going to cry sometimes. So I'm interested to see if this kid could come back and contribute to the big league club the way that we know he can and the way the Jays hope he can with his talent level. What about you?
I'm interested in the battle for left field. As of right now, it's the only position that is up for grabs on the Blue Jays roster, and it's currently between Eric Thames and Travis Snider. Who will get it? I guess we'll have to wait and see when the season starts.
So if the Jays are going to have a breakout year, who do they need the most to perform?
I'd have to say Brett Laurie. He only played in 43 games last season, but he had really great stats. He had 150 at-bats, 44 hits, 25 RBIs, and 9 home runs. If you were to multiply that by 4, he'd be right up there as one of the team's best players.
That's a good choice. I'm going to go with Brandon Morrow, the Jays' #2 starter. He's done well. We know he has a lot of potential. He's got loads of talent, but he's never quite put it together yet. Last year he was 11-11, and a couple other pitchers in the major leagues that went 11-11 are Brad Penny and AJ Burnett. And Penny's in Japan, and Burnett got shipped out to Pittsburgh, baseball purgatory. So I'm going to say Morrow has to come through. He's going to have a better year than last year. And if him and Romero can combine for 30 wins or more, the Jays are going to be in a great spot to compete in the AL East.
All right, last question. If Travis Snider loses the battle for left field, where's he going?
He's going to the bench. He's just going to warm it until he's ready to go out there.
He's going to another team, I think. They've had this guy kicking around for a while now. They've given him a couple chances up in the big leagues, and he's got a lot of potential, like that in Minnesota when he hit those 2 massive home runs. Like, we all know he's got a lot of talent, and he's good, but he hasn't been able to put it together consistently. And I think he's one of those guys where it might just be like a change of scenery is what he needs.
Canadian rising star Milos Raonic defended his SAP Open title, but the win wasn't everything for him because it sent him down the rankings by 3 points to number 35. The reason for the dip is because the tournament landed on a date that was after the deadline for the points to count towards the rankings. However, on the other side, the guy he defeated jumped up 12 spots in the rankings. What do you think of this, Sean?
I think that Milos had a great tournament, and even if he moved down 3 spots in the ranking, I mean, what's the difference between, 32 versus 35 or something like that? I mean, really, what's the difference? The guy came out and was hammering his serve at like 150 miles an hour. He just breezed through everybody. So maybe he moves down 3 spots, but I think it does a lot for his confidence, the way he breezed through the competition.
But then again, he wasn't really playing anyone that was of importance. Like the big name guys like Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, they don't play at these small tournaments.
You might be right about that, but how's a guy supposed to develop if he's only ever going to play against the top players in the world? And I think if you watched him play, and I've heard a couple of tennis guys say that when his serve is on, this guy can beat almost anybody. Maybe not Djokovic, because he's obviously playing out of his mind right now. But Federer's on the downslope. Nadal isn't what he used to be. Maybe he can make a move, you know? And
I think Nadal has, I hate to say it, I think he's peaked.
Yeah.
I think he's probably going to coast at this lovely plateau he has, and then maybe in a year or 2, he's going to join that downward slide that Federer is on right now. Djokovic can do so much. He's not going to be the next Sampras, but he's going to win a bunch of tournaments, and there'll be a window in there for Raonic to just slide on up and become a top 10 player in the ATP.
Earlier this week, the Knicks welcomed back Carmelo Anthony, and with their full complement of Anthony, Stoudemire, Lynn, Chandler, and J.R. Smith, they lost to the lowly New Jersey Nets. So what does this game mean for the chemistry of the Knicks?
It means they need to figure out the problem and fix it fast. I don't know whether it's a combination of Anthony's selfish playing or the fact that while he was away, Lynn was able to carry out the typical Mike D'Antoni offense style that you saw in the Suns. They need to find a way just to mesh well together because on paper they are contenders to come out of the East on top. But then another problem with that is there's too many guys who are their number one option to go to score points. They need to have that one person.
Yeah, I agree. On paper, these guys are, you could argue they're all around more talented than the Heat, I think.
Oh, definitely.
But until they can get a pecking order going of who's the number one guy, who's the second option, who's the third option, they're going to constantly be fighting for the ball. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many mouths to feed. There's just too many people who need the ball to score points. And if you look at the teams like the Suns, you were saying, they had Stoudemire as their first option and Nash and Marion. And you need to set something up that's kind of the same way. Carmelo Anthony really doesn't fit into that run and gun style that D'Antoni plays. Maybe the Knicks look at some kind of deal involving him.
And with that, we're sticking with the NBA because the All-Star Weekend is this weekend. While the event has been on a bit of a decline over the past few years, it still manages to create standout, memorable moments. So we at Timeout decided that we would take a look back at some of our favorite moments of All-Star Weekend. At number 5, we have the Shakawalkies at the 2009 All-Star Game. America's Best Dance Crew winners Jabberwockies were all the rage at the LA Lakers, and Shaquille O'Neal decided to don a mask and dance alongside them. At number 4, we have Dick Bavetta racing Charles Barkley during the 2007 All-Star Game. Dick Bavetta, one of the referees in the league, decided to race from one side of the court to the other against Charles Barkley. Sadly, Bavetta lost and Barkley won, running backwards towards the finish line.
At number 3, we have Vince Carter's amazing slam dunks in the 2000 competition. Everybody probably remembers that, especially if you were a Toronto fan back in the day, when he pulled a 360 windmill, introduced us to Vinsanity and Air Canada and all that stuff. We have Jordan's dunk from the free throw line in 1988. And not just that, but the whole competition between him and Wilkins in that year was so amazing, so hyped, and groundbreaking for some of the dunks we see now. Those were really the predecessors of it, thrown down in that competition.
At number 1, we have Magic Johnson. He had just retired from the league after telling everyone that he had HIV. But for the 1992 All-Star Game, he came out of retirement, dropped 25 points in 29 minutes, earning him the All-Star Game MVP honors and a place in everyone's hearts.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Don't forget to tune in next week when we have Pam Yap coming in to talk to us about the NHL trade deadline. But for now, I'm Sean.
And I'm Alexis. That's our man C. Good night.